Over these past few days, we've been having a meeting of the Jesuit Ecumenist Committee. They're responsible for organizing and facilitating the work of Jesuits, both academic as well as practical, who are involved in the Society's mission of ecumenism. These days have been important for us because we've been reflecting about where we are now after almost 60 years of real commitment to the ecumenical venture signaled by Vatican II. But 60 years is a long time in the life of the Church and in the life of the Society. And things have changed, and we're very conscious of that. So in these days, we have been looking at what has changed and what do we need to do now to continue that mission of ecumenism.
From the very beginning of the Society of Jesus, Jesuits were sent out, missioned out into the world. I think some of our basic DNA is fundamental. It is missionary. We are sent out. We have a job to do. We have a message to bring. But I think we're helped particularly in some fundamental understandings of the way that the divine is present in the world. I think when the missionaries went out, particularly to non-Christian territories, what they had a basic understanding that we look for, first of all, is shared humanity. We also look for then at a second level when we dialogue with people who have some experience of the divine or that makes sense to them. You're looking for shared territory. How can you reach out across differences and discover what you have in common? When it comes to the work of ecumenism, I think what we're looking for is that we not only have that shared humanity, the shared experience of the divine, but it's the shared experience of Christ and in various different ways of church.
Ecumenism, I think, is ontologically prophetic, but not ethically prophetic. That is, the ecumenical movement has been presenting to the church what it is. It is one, founded by Christ, one and the same Holy Spirit in all. And yet there are divisions that have arisen historically. And so the movement is toward unity more complete because we already have more in common than what divides us. But we still need to move forward into a fuller unity. The understanding of what that fuller unity might be has changed. In the early ecumenical movement, with the World Council of Churches, for example, and I think with Vatican II, the hope was for full visible unity, meaning Eucharistic communion and some manner of ecclesiastical affiliation without merger, but still some manner of federation, I suppose we might say. That probably is passing, and now we are much more tentative about what does Christian unity mean if it becomes more full. What would that mean? The phrase that's used now is differentiated consensus. In the past, it's been called reconciled diversity. We're looking, we're searching.
I think we've moved a long way away in ecumenism now from the ecumenism as a sort of apologetics in the sense of a desire to convert the other so that they will come into our fold as well. It's much more mutual these days when we look at that. I would return actually, and I point out that everything that we do and are in the society comes from the spiritual exercises. And we begin in the spiritual exercises with the principle and foundation, which is we have a blueprint of what it is to be a human person. But I think one of the things that actually is particularly germane and useful in ecumenical work is actually the presuppositio. That is that we look at the other, we take a general tendency to assume goodwill on part of the other and a desire to understand them in their own context.
So to be in conversation also needs that I know the other. So there's the second point, if you like, that you study the spirituality, the way the others pray, how they think, what's important for them. It's necessary to know about that, to be able to enter in a deeper dialogue. And all dialogue, all conversation starts on the human level, to share our common humanity, and then our Christian faith. there is much in common, but not all. So it's important then to listen, to really listen to the other, what the brother, the sister wants to tell us, wants to tell me as a Catholic, and to really listen. What does he say or she, and what does he or she not say? And also to learn to read between the lines.
So if ecumenical movement is prophetic now, it's a prophet seeking its own words. The inspiration is there because the Holy Spirit continues to call the church into its own reality, which is one, but the words, the ideas, the initiatives, the actions, the plans, even the focused hopes are still in a transitional phase, as both Markus and Dorian have pointed out. The classical phase probably has come to at least a temporary close. We're now moving more toward receptive ecumenism, an ecumenism of work and collaboration, but not so much of high-level dialogues and papers and resolutions, because those have been reached and they sit on bookshelves in various churches and haven't borne practical consequences often. So that's one thing on ecumenism as prophetic. It continues, but we're seeking how to be prophetic now. And I would say we've shifted, this is my personal opinion, I wouldn't say it represents a consensus at all, but it's my opinion, that the motivation now has shifted from hope for visible unity toward charity in present division. So receptive ecumenism and other initiatives are a matter of, I'll borrow a phrase from Bernard Lonergan's Philosophy and Theology, falling in love with excellences in other traditions. People might come to appreciate a particular church's worship or prayer, the holiness of lives, the example of witness to faith in other traditions, and through that portal enter into a larger appreciation for that church and that tradition, and then maybe into others too. So that's a matter of the, shall we say, the vision of charity, rather than a hope for something that we haven't yet attained.
The question then, I think, also in the exercises that comes back again is that Ignatius talks, there's the principle of adaptability. You know, whatever is more suitable or what is more relevant to in particular circumstances. So I think that adaptability is essential there in good ecumenical relations. And when I talk about ecumenical relations, I think what's interesting is that in many fields of ecumenism, this has now moved away from high-level technical theological dialogue, where it's actually the grassroots experiences also counts as significant ecumenical progress. And in those questions, building relationships is really, really important. So even if we do not have complete communion with each other, complete unity in absolutely everything, we stress what is really important, that we actually can work together. Paradoxically, it's often working side by side with people who are of very different convictions, that we get to know them better, that they get to trust us better. So it is a process of mutual learning as well. And that demands a certain openness, an open-heartedness, a certain humility as well.
Now, in terms of where the Society of Jesus might have something to offer here, I do think, as both Dorian and Markus have said, we have a kind of a missionary orientation. I think that missionary orientation needs to be carefully understood as conversational, dialogical, respectful, and realizing that seldom do we come to a situation of people with a non-Christian religion or a different Christian tradition where God is not active. So it's a matter of then finding God in all things, a very characteristic Jesuit way of perceiving, being open at least, to the fact that God already is active in some way in others. And being attentive to that, we do not hesitate to confess that the fullness of the gospel, we believe, is represented and embodied in Catholic Christianity. But we don't presume that that means there's no God, no truth, no gospel in other traditions. And the same would hold for non-Christian religions. There's something of God there, but we would hope to offer Jesus Christ as the fulfillment. So in the Society of Jesus, what might we do? Well, we've been searching for that, and we realize that Gen Z has a very different experience, especially of secularity and of church, than those of us in an older generation. And so we are looking to Gen Z and wanting to engage in discussion with them about the future of our Jesuit orientation toward ecumenism, because General Congregation 34, in a very broad stroke, and I think a very brilliant broad stroke, said, ecumenism is a new way of being Christian. Okay, that we're Christian, that means it affects us. The document, final document from the Synod and Pope Francis, at the end, commends ecumenism as an integral part of priestly formation. So priestly formation is not well understood if it's just a unilateral, monological presentation of the gospel. It's really dialogical or conversational in that sense of respect for others, having something already in their minds and hearts, which we can hope to offer our gospel to.
I think it also requires patience, and I think it's the long, slow work of God. So I think the 60 years is in many ways, it's a long time to be at this post-Vatican endeavor in ecumenism, but it's also a very short time in the history of the Church as well. There are Christians between the rift, I suppose, if you want, between Christians in the East and the West. It's often dated to 1056, but really that was a long division. It took centuries to establish, and to bring people back together will take centuries. So I think at this point we have to say we hope to be part of the solution. We are not the solution. We hope not to be part of the problem. We hope not to create problems. But basically, and it's an act of faith and hope and of love.